Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today, beautiful? My name is Joesephyr and welcome to a brand new Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now first things first, you might notice that there are some visual changes that have happened with this channel, and I'm still in the process of bringing in all of these new visual flares and stuff, but obviously I wanted you guys to know about stuff as it was happening. So yes, there is a bit of an evolution happening for the Joesephyr channel, and I'm really pleased with a lot of it, so I hope that you guys are too. But today we're going to be discussing the banners for Dissidia that are going to approach this week. So we have Irvine and his intersecting wills coming up, and then on Friday we have Thancred coming out, who is not good. I'm just going to put that out there now. But if you'd like to know why Thancred isn't good and why the event that comes with Irvine is arguably the easiest high-level content we've ever had in Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, then of course stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down in the description box below, including my Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Patreon, all of that good stuff. I am in the process of overhauling a lot of stuff for the purposes of making the content you guys deserve, and a lot of upgrades have been happening here and there. And on Wednesday, we do also have the interview that I'll be doing with FF14's Susan Calloway, who is famous for singing some of the biggest songs to come out of that game, like Answers and Dragon Song. So if you'd like to come and join us on Wednesday at 6 PM to come and chat with the pair of us while we have a cup of tea and spill the tea, then it would be wonderful to see you guys there. And of course, don't forget my Patreon as well, which is my members only website where you guys can come along and get lots of different benefits, including title cards that I make just for you, exclusive voice chats, exclusive streams, all sorts of bits and pieces so that I can connect with those that have decided to support the channel further. And I also shout out one of my Patreons every time I release a new video, and today that person is going to be Jake's the Best Ever, who has a Pyra and Mithra title card from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And it's really interesting to see people pick characters that aren't from Final Fantasy, because it goes to show that there's a lot out there for people to enjoy, and Xenoblade is a very popular franchise, so thank you very much for choosing that and for choosing to support the channel. And then finally, don't forget to check out all the other content creators out there for Dissidia Opera Omnia, as well as all the resources out there that we use on this channel, including DissidiaInfo.com, DissidiaCompendium.com, DissidiaDB.com, the Tombury Troop and their fabulous infographics, and of course shout out to Mediu and Leo Bob over on Reddit for their translations over from the JP side. So of course, let's start by discussing the banners that we have coming out this week and what's on them, and therefore whether you might be interested in pulling for any of these characters. So the first banner that we're going to talk about is going to be Irvine's, and this banner is obviously going to contain Irvine and all of his new gear, including his brand new LD. It's going to see the return of Sazh LD as well, which is interesting because it wasn't that long ago that we actually had Sazh LD released, which was just before C90s and stuff came out. And we're also going to have another opportunity to get Laguna BT for those who don't already have it, and Kimahri's also there because EX characters are there for Chaos challenges and such. So we're going to start by talking about Sazh. Now Sazh doesn't get a huge amount out of this banner, but what he does get is useful. He gets some more damage and an increase in his recast rate for his EX, which is already quite good. And it now does 4 HP dumps, followed by a bigger Brave HP dump, so 5 in total. And that's pretty much all you're really getting out of it, although you get some Brave damage cap increases from his C65 as well. But the main reason that you're bringing Sazh along is for his ability to make it so that you're spending less brave, or you're getting more bravery back than damage you're dealing. So if you've used Golbez or anything like that, Sazh provides that same buff to the party, and that is your primary reason to be bringing him. So if you're got characters like Cloud, who perhaps don't refill their bravery to maximum between HP attacks, and you're not wanting to use characters like Kate Sith to do that job, then Sazh can also fulfill that as well, whilst also providing large attack buffs, max brave buffs, all that kind of thing, and also being a relatively quick character. Now you do still have to bear in mind that he does clog up your buff slots quite a lot, and he does, by being a quicker character, sometimes take turns when you don't really want him to, but his LD call is still quite useful, and it's one that's worth having because it's buff based rather than debuff based, and he does have some little debuffs while you're in a pinch as well, so you might want to use him for that. But the star of the show here is Irvine. Now, Irvine was never categorically a great character, but he has got some interesting quirks to him that make him stand out a little. Like, he was one of the first characters that had access to range resistance down, which Fran then kind of ran with. And he also, despite being a more damage-focused character, has HP healing on his EX attack, which is pretty significant. So, you get increased uses of both of his skills, which are pretty much just going to have increased HP dump, so 3 of each, and then you're going to get speed down from canister shot and the range resist down from scatter shot. You also get the range resist down from his EX and his LD attacks as well, so you can just work around that. So his EX gives you 4 HP dumps, and you get the range resistance down added to all enemies. It's now had its recast rate increased, and of course you are now healing off of it, and the party is getting a slightly larger attack bonus where you didn't get it before. And his LD is where things get slightly interesting. So his LD isn't actually an attack. It is a simple buff-based skill that loads 2 uses of Dark Shot and 1 lot of Pulse Shot into his Brave and HP attacks. Very similar to Lena, Charlotta, that kind of thing, where the LD loads uses of a different skill into your Brave and HP slots. Dark Ammo is what you're probably going to be using Irvine for if you're using him at all. So Dark Shot is a 4 AoE Brave HP damage attack that is also going to inflict range resistance down, so imperil for range damage, Dark Shot and speed down, so all of his like debuffs that he attacks with, and then Dark Shot is a defense down, HP resistance down, and poison and darkness. So 50% blindness is useful, but it's not something to rely on. But the combination of the defense down, the HP damage taken up, so the HP damage resist down, and the range resistance down means that there are certain characters that will really benefit from this. And because his EX has healing in it, there's a lot more support in Irvine's kit than you might think. However, if you've got Fran LD call, you're probably just going to use that, because there's not a huge amount that separates Fran from Irvine in terms of the LD call alone, so you probably find just going with that. Irvine's got some quirks to him, like the Pulse Shot is just a stronger damage attack. It's a splash damage based move. It's got more bravery hits in it between the HP dumps, but it's there for more raw damage. Dark Ammo does the same number of HP dumps, so that's kind of the skill that you're wanting to use him for. Would you use him? I think it depends entirely on what you were after. His LD call is Dark Shot, so you're gonna get the Dark Shot HP down, the range resist down, the speed down, all of that stuff as well. But like I said, if you already have Fran, there's not much between Fran and Irvine for you to necessarily need to pull Irvine when you already have Fran. But he has enough that's a little different, like his healing capabilities in your party, and an obviously larger amount of HP dump than Fran has, that you might want to consider using him in your party, maybe even if not for very long. So now moving into the other banner that we're going to talk about this week, we have the Tiamat raid, which is going to feature Maria, her C90, Thancred, and all of his brand new gear, and should in theory be the last chance to get Laguna BT. Now originally Alize in JP came out alongside Laguna BT, but obviously we've already had Alize in Global, so we don't know if they're going to maybe do anything between the next batch of BT and the end of this one, but we can assume that this is the last chance we'll get to get Laguna BT. Maybe the community stream next week will tell us more. But let's take a look at what we can get from this. So Maria is honestly one of my favourite characters in this game to play. I picked up her LD like on an off chance and I ended up absolutely loving her. The Brave gains, the pre-attack trap followed by the other traps in combination with her. It was just all really nice and she was very pleasantly surprising. So it's lovely to see that she gets a rework here with her C90 that increases the number of HP dumps she gets, not just on both of her normal skills, but also the LD attack itself having 4 HP dumps in it. So she's doing double HP dumps on both of her skills. You've got the Otoya and higher sort of debuff traps that you get off of her LD as well. And you get Explode, which comes from her EX, which also now does triple HP dump. You're getting HP damage increases for the party off of her LD buff. You get more damage off of Explode, which then sets her up for her other traps. She's just a very cool character. Like, is she necessary for anything? No, but off-turn damage is a very valuable thing to have access to. So if you don't have access to Maria already and you happen to get her, definitely try her out. I think, like me, you'll be very pleasantly surprised. Thancred, on the other hand, not so much. Thancred is one of these characters that is just ultimately really unfortunate whenever he's been released. In fact, I can't think of any time where he's really shined, because he just isn't given any tools to play with. So he does get a rework. Now, bear in mind that Thancred's role is a dedicated damage dealer that inflicts poison. That is his primary function. 2 HP dumps on both of his skills is not good enough. Certainly not when you consider that Maria, the support character that is released alongside him, provides buffs, healing, all that stuff, does more HP dumps than he does thanks to her traps. That's not the full ticket. His EX gets 4 HP dumps because you wouldn't use it if it wasn't the plus version of itself. It's pretty much it. And his Brave Attack Ninki is something you can use to get a free turn. You get an HP off of it that doesn't eat up your bravery, so you can save it for something else. But realistically, people don't need to keep their bravery for the following attack, so it's not really that useful. His LD is a 6 Brave HP attacking move, which is better. Like, it's solid, and his poisons are useful. They're all Brave poisons, and they do their thing. And then he comes with a buff that increases his offensive stats, much like any other character. And he also gets a stack, the mechanic that comes with this buff. Every time he acts, he gains 1 up to a maximum of 5, at which point his HP attack turns into Trick Attack, which is a 3 HP dumping attack that is free and adds the Trick Attack debuff to all enemies, which makes it so that he can then deal more bravery damage. The Trick Attack debuff is literally just 20% HP up. That's it. Like, when you've just looked at Irvine, who does that, defense down, blind, poison, literally everything that Thancred does, and then some. You kind of question, what reason is there to pull for Thancred? It's very rare nowadays that you get a character where you just think, there's just not much reason to pull for this. Like, really, I mean, even if you're a big fan of Thancred, it's just sad at this point that he just never gets his time to shine. I really like Thancred, but it just... Yes, you can argue that if you have Trick Attack, you get the 3 HP dumps, and then if you've got his EX up, you get 4 HP dumps, but then that only adds up to 7, and Laguna can do that with better debuffs, and is more consistent because you don't have to wait 5 turns to get the HP dumps. It's just really unfortunate. I mean, his LD call... also very uninteresting. It's got the 6 HP dumps in it, and you do more bravery and HP damage. Like, 60% of brave damage dealt up is something, but do we really need that at this point in time? I'm thinking no. Thancred is just a very unfortunate character. If you really love him, you'll get use out of him. But you could say that about literally any character in the game at this point. So, is he worth pulling for? It's a pretty big no. Does get a nice rework later down the line when he gets his FR boards, though. So now let's take a look at the events that are going to be coming out with these banners. So we're first of all going to be taking a look at Irvine's Intersecting Wills. This event is, quite frankly, a bit of a joke. Like, we've had easy Lufenias. This is on another level. So the Lufenia Orb asks for increased HP damage due to a debuff, which obviously is supposed to be Irvine, but we have how many of those now? We have loads and loads and loads of them. So Kurasame, Irvine, Thancred even, there's tons that you could take to this, or you can deal range damage for +3. And if the special count becomes 35 or more, then the orb goes away. So honestly, you could take a Noctis BT phase and probably just deal with it there and then and never have to worry about it again. As a matter of fact, this particular Lufenia is one that many people have uploaded videos of solo clears, testing damage out. This is like an event that people use to do that. Because beyond the Lufenia Orb, it's pretty much just the pair of Iguions that we've fought loads of times. As long as you kill them relatively close to each other, it's pretty much the only thing that you have to worry about. Oh, no, sorry, I'm lying. After a certain point of HP threshold, they gain a shield. That's it. You have to break the shield, and then you just carry on. So they have a bit more health than they say they do. The Tiamat raid, however, is a little bit more challenging. So the Tiamat raid, the Lufenia orb is also very simple, but it kind of masks some mechanics that they would have had otherwise. So what these guys do is, there's two of them for a start, and they will, after HP thresholds at 80%, 50%, they will warp turn and gain 3 turns in a row. And during those turns, they can't take damage, and they have bravery regen. So the idea is that you're supposed to use poison and sap effects not only to deal with the orb, but also to deal with the fact that they're just going to lunge at you repeatedly. So take a tank. If you got Zac PT, gonna work perfect. You got Oren, you got Barsh, also gonna work great, because Barsh has lock and also protects from the AoE attacks that are very frequent from the Tiamat fights. They do also have some nasty debuffs in their kit as well. So if you have somebody with debuff immunity, looking at Lena, but obviously Ignis is also an option, then that's going to help you out as well, because they do like to inflict paralysis, poison, all sorts of... their heat debuff as well, which I believe actually gets past Windrake's arrow buff and things like that, which is just an HP and bravery poison on you, but it doesn't last very long. So as long as you have a healer and a tank, because what this wants from you really is somebody like Maria, for obvious reasons, reduces their bravery between turns, able to hit them between turns, able to heal past them. That then doesn't become an issue either. You just have to keep in mind that they do attack very frequently, and at those HP thresholds you need to be prepared to take 3 turns from each of them in a row. So now we have Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and let everyone know whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why that might be the case. So a massive thank you goes out to all of my patrons once again for casting their votes and their comments, and I'm actually kind of shocked by the numbers on these banners because they're not quite what I expected, to be honest. So of the 100+ people that we asked, going with Irvine's banner first, 26% of people said they were going to use gems on this banner, 39% of people said they were going to use 100 or more tickets, 17% of people said they were going to use less than 100 tickets, and 17% of people said no. I was not expecting that many people to be going that hard on this banner, if I'm honest, because I think that while Irvine is cool, Sazh is also cool, and then, you know, you need a place to pull for Laguna BT. I wouldn't have called this a gem banner personally, but we do have some reasonings from people that we'll go into in just a bit. Then moving over to Thancred's banner, only 5% of people said they were going to use gems here, 23% of people said they were going to use 100 or more tickets, 27% of people said they were going to use less than 100 tickets, and 45% of people said no. Again, I am a little shocked that more people didn't say no to this. I assume that people are after Laguna BT to some extent, or perhaps Thancred has more fans than I would have thought he does. But from a personal standpoint, I will spend tickets on these banners. Certainly Irvine and Sazh, because I have neither LD, and I am still hunting for a BT. So maybe there are people who are in the same boat as me, or maybe they will just have a lot of resources to give, because I would not have said personally that either of these banners were ones that I would go in very heavily on, except for the BT. So let's go to some comments. So Alex says, Sazh is the last LD I'm missing. I plan to gem this banner. However, if I wasn't obsessed with getting them all, I'd skip it entirely. Both characters seem to be mostly relevant as a call, and those aren't even that unique. I didn't like Irvine in 8 either, so a school would say, whatever. Thancred looks pretty tragic, sadly. His kit needed a massive rework and didn't quite get it. But unlike characters like Oren, the LD just doesn't make up for it. High hopes with a future BT coming along the gun with the Gunbreaker costume. A lot of people say, like, why haven't they made a costume for Thancred with his Gunbreaker outfit? I think you'd need to make him a separate character entirely. Because the Gunbreaker outfit with the rogue daggers just doesn't work in my mind. I don't really know. I think you'd have to have, like, a, you know, Black Mage Stola, Gunbreaker Thancred, like, totally different characters for those, like Paladin Cecil or Lys, that kind of thing. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of that. But when it comes to Thancred, I do think that the instant turn of Trick Attack is good, but having to wait 5 turns to be able to do that kind of like is a bit of a stick in the mud for it, and it makes me sad because I want Thancred to be really good and it just isn't happening. Goose says, I just don't get the point of Irvine or Thancred when you could just run Laguna, who fills the same role and almost certainly gets better results without greening him. Irvine has blind and range weakness to set himself apart, and I'm really labouring the meaning of that phrase, while Thancred has niche not found. Bottom of the barrel duds as far as I can tell. Still gonna blue Irvine though. I don't think Irvine's the bottom of the barrel. I think he's fine, and I think he's nifty and he's cute, and if you don't have Fran, that LD call is actually really good. If you do have Fran, like I said before, there's not enough, certainly for my opinions, to separate them that make me go, oh, I really need to have Irvine. If I got Irvine, I probably would use him over Fran for a while, because I do think that having access to the defense down, the blind, as well as the HP resist down, and the range resist down, it's a nice combination of things. I just don't feel the need to go in for it. I just have an overabundance of tickets and want a BT, basically. Multiracial Lion, however, says, gems for Irvine. I'm not interested in Sazh. Irvine's update gives him some unique and interesting toys to play with, being a type imperiler. His new LD grants a buff that has standard brave damage, HP up, whatever. The big deal is that it loads up 2 types of ammo for alternate brave HP attacks, which come in the form of dark and pulse ammo. Pulse ammo hits pretty dang hard, splash on every attack, but the star is dark ammo, as its debuff comes locked and loaded for a fight. The blind is especially nice, given some of the fights we have coming up soon, such as say for Sephiroth. His EX is even better, especially saying it's now a 1 skill and 1 brave HP recast. I gemmed his LD on JP and didn't regret it one bit. I'll be doing that again, along with the blue armor. Irvine may not break the bank or the game in terms of what he's able to do, but he does enough and is very fun to play, which are the things that matter most to me. He enables some really silly possibilities with the rest of your roster, which is half the fun of the game. Absolutely. That is a perfectly good reason to go pulling for Irvine. If it's the kind of thing that you enjoy because you enjoy the way that he played in FF8, I absolutely have no rebuttal to that. I try to come at my opinions towards characters from a point of recommending to players who are looking for the path of least resistance, and in that aspect, I don't think that Irvine is somebody that people should be going in for. But if you want someone unique, quirky, and different that loads up like ammo and gives you options, then yes, he absolutely will do that for you. Pale Raider finally says, I'll be using gems on Irvine, because my luck on Zac and Laguna banners has been very lenient. He may not churn out top tier damage, but it's still above average in my opinion. His debuffs make him interesting, if not niche, and his call is nothing to sniff at either. Overall, I find him intriguing, and that's pretty much the only thing I need here. Thancred's banner gets a few tickets, but only because it features Maria LD and I missed it back when it first came around. I can't think of a single reason one would actually want to pull for Thancred unless he's a favourite, but even in that case I think most people prefer Gunbreaker Thancred over his ninja kit, and sadly we don't have the former in DFFOO. Much like Sazh, Thancred is a far cry away from being a satisfactory consolation prize, especially in the current state of the game. If I get them, cool, but I won't be spending any resources pushing them to their limits. I do think that there are people that will use Thancred. I do, and I certainly think there'll be a lot of uploads of Thancred being used, because he's not unplayable. It's just really sad to see how little love he's gotten compared to other units, like Auron being a great example, who was completely transformed by his LD, and Thancred just didn't get that. He gets an occasional time where he does more damage and inflicts a debuff that could be done by about 50 other characters. And I don't think that's good enough. It's certainly not a good enough reason for me to pull. If I use him, if I get him rather, because I'm still looking for Laguna BT and I'm still overburdened with tickets, sure, great. But I'm not going to go after him because I think he's amazing. So now we come to the big question of the video. Should you be pulling for Irvine, Sazh, Maria, Thancred? Well, honestly, for the first time in quite a while, I think it's a pretty definitive no from me. Even though, like, other people don't necessarily agree with me, I try very hard to make the videos that I make based on the idea that not pulling on a banner is actually a good thing, because I am the kind of player that doesn't really like gacha mechanics very much. I'm sure those of you who've seen me on stream know that very, very well. So I see any reason not to pull as a positive. Therefore, if you're suffering for resources for whatever reason, now's a fantastic opportunity to have a saving moment, because the events are quite simple. They are quite easy. You absolutely do not need to have any of the featured characters to clear them. you can fulfill most of what these characters do with somebody else, and therefore I don't believe that you need to have any of them. I really enjoy Maria. I will say that. I really enjoy Maria, and if you don't have Maria, she is a solid pickup. It's just unfortunate who she shares a banner with, which is really upsetting, because I know that Thancred has his fans, as well he should. He's a very cool character. He just never seems to get the love that he deserves in this game. Yes, there are uses for him. Like I said earlier, he has bursty phases of damage, but when you've got characters that have BTs, and Thancred is supposed to be a dedicated damage dealer role, what he's doing just isn't good enough, as far as I'm concerned, because you have characters like Machina, who can do 8 HP dumps without batting an eyelid, and still provides more off-turn damage than Thancred does, and he was released months ago. Yes, he has a BT, but realistically, if you're taking a character solely for a damage dealer role, you're taking a BT character, or a character that really stands out for how much damage they deal, and Thancred sadly just isn't it. Irvine, I think, has a lot of merit. There is some really cool stuff about Irvine, like his combination of HP healing and the damage that he deals is quite different. And Sazh still has an LD call that's useful. He is a bit clunky to use because providing that many buffs in one short space is not ideal when we're used to auras and stuff like that, but he does have some really nice qualities as well, and his EX makes it so that his damage is more competitive. Particularly with him and Irvine, the fact that they both get recast upgrades is really significant to how much damage they can put out, so I will say that in their favour. If you don't have Fran, and therefore access to Fran's LD call ability, Irvine's value is significantly increased, because Irvine's LD call does provide a lot of the same stuff that Fran's does, if not slightly better, but you don't have the all consolidated in one debuff. There are certain aspects that Fran's debuff has that Irvine's doesn't, but Irvine's is very powerful as well. So if you don't have access to Fran, I would at least look at Irvine. At the end of the day, realistically, people who are pulling here are pulling for Laguna BT, in my opinion. There are people who will argue with me on that, and that's absolutely fine. But for those who are looking for the path of least resistance, none of these characters are mandatory for anything, realistically. Except maybe Irvine if you don't have Fran. But if you were looking for the path of least resistance, you probably pulled for Fran ages ago, the same as I did. But I'm gonna use tickets on Irvine regardless, because I still want Laguna BT, and I'm over encumbered with tickets at the moment. And if I get him quickly, then I'll probably throw tickets at Thancred as well, because realistically, BTs are where most people are throwing their stuff at this point, because LD only characters have to really stand out when you can just take 3 BT plus characters at this point in the game. So that's going to be all from today's video. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the 4 characters that are being released over this week. Next week we have the community stream as well. I'll be very interested to see what comes out in May. I'm hoping we'll see some exciting new stuff. And also let me know what you think of the visual overhaul. Like, I tried to kind of clean everything up, make things look a bit more professional. My camera's been upgraded. I've tried really hard to really focus on evolving the Joesephyr channel as opposed to changing it, so that you guys have the content that you deserve. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for any future videos I might be making, whether it be about Dissidia or Final Fantasy in general. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you ever so much for coming along. It's lovely to see you, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Yeah!